machine responds back to you. So the power of haptics is being used as an actuator to create that communication between the man and the machine. Another areas are into aviation, automotive. I remember when we play PS3. Oh, Maverick is there. We were just
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
have invited him. मैंने बोला come shower with your knowledge.
Welcome, Maverick.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Good evening. Yeah,
Am I
audible.
audible?
So we were talking about some healing practices using the power of touch, and Glenn wanted to know more about that. I told him that Maverick is someone who is into crystal healing, into Lu Pharma and Reiki and all. So I will just come back to you. I'll just complete this thought. I'll just come back. Aduj, do you want to say something? Aduj, you
I
want to say
think
something?
Aruj is on a call. She has got a call.
Oh, wait, no problem. So, I remember when I used to play my PS3, PS4, PS5, whatever, Xbox. Whenever I used to play a certain car race, just by the crash, whenever it used to happen, a certain vibration used to come in my hand from the joystick or from the game controller. Even they are using these in some of the AR VR games where there is a game called the VR Magic, where when you put a certain magical spell in front of you, you feel certain vibrations in your hands. So they are trying to connect that real time environment with the virtual environment using the power of haptics. In virtual reality, we are using that a lot in space, robotics. So these are some of the applications of haptics. Sandeep?
Amazing. Yeah, we all are adults here. So another question: all those sex toys are also haptic therapy tools, or
Yes.
what?
So there is this concept called Ron was here before you guys joined in. So we were discussing about this concept of teledildonics. So tele means far, and dildo is a sexual object that women use like a phallus symbol to satisfy themselves. In teledildonics, what happens is that there is a vibrator that the woman is using. However, the control of the vibrator is in an app which is with her boyfriend or whoever partner, sexual partner at a certain distance. That's
Oh
why it's
yeah,
called
yeah,
tele.
yeah. Then
That's why
there
it's
are
called
virtual
tele.
kisses as well. I get it. I get it. हाँ ठीक है. All these
So that
things
is
comes
also a
into.
power of touch. So whatever that he wants to uh, create emotions inside her, he's using a tool or a technology to create that from a far off distance by controlling the speed of the vibration, the heat that he wants to give her, and also the electric current, some surges that he wants to give her. So there is a very, you can say, a virtual love connection that is happening. So that is the power of haptics in a what you can say in a sexual manner.
Yeah, but nothing can beat human cuddle. Just the condition is that you
Exactly.
shouldn't be
Exactly.
stinking at that time. Like you should.
Yeah.
But these are some of the
Taking
applications of haptics that are happening right now. Yes, Sundar.
taking the haptics to technology and the robots is a little. It sounds quite artificial, but I also heard that robotics can actually do a CPR as well. So CPR, I mean, definitely it's a first aid for any cardiac arrest. I do not know how much haptics come into that because that's an actual first aid treatment. So it's a real stuff. And like Akarsh just mentioned, definitely massage is touch therapy. It's not the
So
oil to
I
do a
am just
maximum
reading
effect.
about this thing in robotics where they say that they have created something called the shadow hand. It's an
Okay.
advanced robotic hand. It has
Mhm.
129 touch sensors in every joint and finger pad. It can be relay information to the operator. This allows you to type from a distance. So just by touching the sensor pads, the typing happens in some other dimension. So that is the power of haptics.
Even I heard that metaverse is also related to,
Yes,
could be
we were
related to
talking
that.
about metaverse. Yeah,
Yeah,
metaverse is
so
completely connected to the concept of haptics. Even touchpads, touch phones, smartphones. Right now, when I'm trying to navigate through the internet using my mouse, it actually is a touchpad. So there also the concept of haptics is coming. Nowadays, we don't have those mouse. We have touchpads on laptops, on Macintosh. So this is also the concept of haptics, how
So
technology is
basically,
being
it's anything to do with touch. Why do we have to put new terms like haptics and all? Why don't we just call it touch?
so that you can get fascinated about this one particular thing. What is
Ah,
this haptics about?
exactly. दिमाग तो भुर्जी हो गया है.
during this topic, how many actually remembered about Amrita Nandamayi?
Which one?
Amrita Nandamayi, saint in Kerala, who is known as the Hugging Mother. Have you?
Oh yeah. Anand Mahima. Yeah.
Yeah, I am from Kerala,
Oh,
so
great,
I'm aware.
great.
Krishna Priya has heard her many times. She's
But
aware.
see,
No, I don't go there.
okay. So what I have heard from some of my friends who actually believe that, and I respect it, after embracing her, they have become, really emotional, and they felt very, very light after that. So I
I think
respect the
even
thought.
in one of the Sadhguru's videos, he showed that he was touching the in the middle of the eyebrows, and they were feeling certain sensations, certain vibrations inside them after a certain process. Even Osho used to do that a lot. It is a part of transcendental meditation. So touch is very powerful.
Absolutely.
Even in NLP, we use touch as an anchor. If you can touch in a certain area, you can implant an anchor, or you can even implant a bug. So in the next time when you meet that person, if you touch at that area, it can trigger certain emotions inside them.
Absolutely. And there is a categorization of work satisfaction. If you have read it, Vicky, or anybody, they have differentiated professions or work based on category A, category B, and C. Uh, the A usually falls when it is people to people. And you know who falls under the A category?
Hmm.
Nurses and other people. They
Yeah.
have a more
Oh,
satisfaction,
beautiful,
right?
beautiful,
Uh,
beautiful.
the
I
B
used to be
comes.
part of top-notch healthcare, where I've trained more than a lot of nurses, paramedics, and all. So I am aware about what aspect you're bringing into the conversation. Yes, definitely, they are the first point of contact. And even in marketing, we have this contact points where the customer comes in the contact with your purpose, your vision, with your product, with your prototype, with your people. Yes, that itself is the concept of haptics or the touch. And this is not something in a tangible manner, it's more on an intangible manner.
Yeah, and that brings to Sandeep's point exactly when he talks about when it's a people to people, there is something else. So
Yes,
at the spiritual level, if we call all, each one of us as energy. When one energy meets another energy, something happens for sure.
yes,
I think, I suppose,
yes.
because there might be a placebo effect. There could be a lot of other things. So I think
Confluence
any
of energies always takes place. This is the reason that opposite values are complementary to each other. When we have day, we have night, so that we can balance out. At
true.
the time when everything is transitioning, we have these transitions of emotions both in the positive side and the negative side, like a yin and yang. And this confluence of energies is something which is creating that semblance within us and in the universe. That itself is the concept of touch, how you're touching on those energies and how you're vibrating with them.
I'll just tell you one small. He's a quack. He works in one inaccessible area.
Yeah.
He's
So
regarded
before
as a
that,
doctor. Or
I'll just quickly welcome Parag and Maverick. And these guys have also joined in. Thank you guys for joining in. Whenever you want to chime in, please do that. Yes, Sundar Kumar.
yeah, it's a simple story wherein is a quack and he has
What's a
no
quack?
way of is a quack, and that means is a doctor who is not qualified. So. You know,
Okay. Acha,
who,
okay, like a jhola chap.
yeah, we call him quacks. But quacks are
Okay.
necessary, Vicky, for our country because they go to a lot of inaccessible areas and many of them do a
Yeah, I'm
good
aware
job.
about that. I'm aware
Yeah.
about it. Yes.
So I heard about one quack like this. I don't want to call him as a quack because his OPD is around 250 patients per day.
Touch each other on an average of 180 times in an hour. In Paris, it was about close to about 100 or 110 times, if my memory serves me right. If you jet over to Florida, the average actually drops to twice an hour. So we're talking about 180 times in Puerto Rico. In Paris, it was about over 100 times. And in Florida, it drops to 2 per hour. And by the time you move to London, the average was 0 per hour. So there are plenty of good reasons not to touch every stranger that we see. There's some touch hunger and then there's creepy, but when we can hold back on too much, we miss out on too much. So a lot of people think that way, when these posh complaints actually come to corporates and stuff like that, because we were taught that the touch has to feel non-sexually harassing. Being touched on a face by a co-worker is considered as the most inappropriate and the harassing type of touch. Touch in the waist region is most inappropriate and harassing. A gentle tap on the shoulder is the least harassing. So I've just come back from a course where I never thought I will, and to be appointed as a chairman of a posh committee was completely different. So it was quite a refresher to listen to haptics in a completely different sense of what Maverick sent it out to be.
No, but we're glad that you came here and many congratulations that you became the chairman for Posh. You will
It's
be
one of the most
going to
unenviable jobs, Vicky. Please let me tell you. It's most unenviable. It's terrible.
I remember there was a Posh complaint that came towards one of my trainers was because he was part of the committee as well. It was in Noida, and the complaint that came with regard to the Posh statement was that there's a guy who sent a friend request on Facebook to a girl, and they were putting that under the Posh. And I was trying to make them aware that that is not something that we take into consideration with regard to Posh. It's a social platform, and if he's sending a friend request, it's not sexual harassment. So before I could tell them prevention of sexual harassment, I had to make them aware about the nuances of sexual harassment and how normally people get sexually harassed. And that's the irony, making people understand something which they are completely adamant in not listening to, and they have their own definition. Last time, Sandy and me, we were talking about this thing only, that one of the reasons the conflict happens is that everyone has a definition towards one certain definition, and they only want to resonate on that one particular thing, and no one wants to listen to other person's perspective. That's the level of comprehension that we lack as an Indian society. But glad that you came and you talked about that. Yes, Posh, extremely important nowadays because of the Posh Act of 2013, and now they have, I think, 2008, 10, 13. There was this some Rajasthan committee, na? What was that committee in which it started? There was this girl who actually got touched in a very inappropriate manner, and what was that, Bishnoi committee or something like that, and then it transitioned into an act, and then it became a Posh Act. But also in corporates, when I did the Posh Act, as per the Indian Posh Act, the sexual harassment is only with regard to the female, not with regard to the male. However, I put that thing in the corporates when I was implementing it, that we also have to take into consideration with regard to the male perspective. So what's your take on that, Parag?
No, so strangely, I know about Posh only because I got trained on Posh only recently. So Posh law actually affords, as you rightly said, protection from harassment only for women. So organizations can't have provisions to protect men or the third gender from any kind of harassments. But these are actually myths, and the truth is that it 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 actually offers protection from both. So when we were told by these experts who were there from various law firms. There were people from Cyril Amarchand Shroff and all these guys who were there teaching us as to how should we uh, come to constitute a gender neutral harassment prevention policy. Uh, so yeah, I think our legal team is now working on a gender-neutral policy for sexual harassment prevention as a part of the service rules of the organization. But I completely agree. In fact, just yesterday we received 3 complaints, and all the 3 were from men and not women, which is yeah. I'm going to have fun on these committees.
I told you, it's fun. But these
Oh,
kind of discussions that happen in the committee, I think you're talking about the
I'm
ICC,
I'm dreading
the
it.
Internal Complaints Committee. I used to be part of that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the
No, so
level of
because I'm
conversation
in
that
a
they
retail organization, right? The amount of people, the volume is so high. So I actually told them that let's form a subcommittee and let the subcommittee then refer cases to us, because there are such flimsy things that keep coming.
yeah.
At the end of it, I'll realize that I'm not making money for the organization, but I'm just preventing sexual harassment. And that's not going to be my core job. And on my CV, the next time I want to move out to another organization, the only thing I'll have to say is how I prevented sexual harassment in my company.
And you know what the irony is, that anyone who is connected to the concept of personality, body language, they feel that these people are the perfect fit to gauge how to make people aware about the concepts of haptics or oculesics or proxemics or kinesics or body language and non-verbal and verbal communication. I'm like, please spare me the horror.
And the irony is that I have a habit. So when I'm talking to male colleagues, right, I have this habit of, at least the team, that I put an arm around them and talk to them only to make them feel very comfortable in what I'm telling them or whatever. So if I have a difference of opinion, I deliberately do that so that if there is any kind of a variation in my tone, it gets balanced out by the pat on the back or whatever. Now with this bloody onerous task that has been given to me, I am freaking worried, man, that how am I going to keep my hands to myself?
You have to learn the power of haptics now.
Totally.
Just imagine the kind of complaints that you guys would be coming up with, like, उसने
Oh,
मुझे छुआ,
Sandeep,
मैंने
I
उसे
can't
छुआ.
even tell you the level of complaints. They are so myopic and so tunnel visioned. I can't even tell you. And I have seen this a lot, because the maximum of my trainers, they were male. Females were not there much. And there were a lot of complaints and a lot of concerns that were raised by them with regard to certain references that came from the target audience that they were training, the nurses per se. And they used to tell me that they don't have a provision to address these complaints anywhere. So hats off to Parag and his legal team that they were able to create that gender neutral, that gender fluidity in the organization. When you take into consideration Indian corporates, Indian organizations, they are very myopic. They completely look down upon the male, and they are more than happy to address the concerns of female. And I'm only talking with regard to the experiences I've had. No halo effect, no preconceived notion, nothing of that sort. But this happens. This happens a lot.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of abuse about the kind of, uh, you know, support system that has been built for certain people, and they sort of resort to abusing those things. So, very difficult position to be at. Though it sounds like, it's like, okay, we're part of committee, but it's a very sensitive area to be in, to be very frank, because it's very difficult to come to a conclusion when you receive a complaint. And most of the complaints that comes are, I don't know how
80% are
many.
false. 80% are false.
It's like it's not accurate for sure. I don't know
And
false and all, but
one of the
accuracy.
reason there's a false element in it because people don't have the comprehension to understand the levels of harassment. What constitutes harassment, they are not aware. And sometimes people try to bring into perspective something which is not even there, which can be addressed. And when it comes in front of you, you start having a conversation with them and yourself. So what the hell is wrong with people? Why are they not able to comprehend on that level? But that is how sad the Indian education system is. That is how sad the Indian society is.
So I'm not going to take the name of the company, but हुआ क्या था, एक डायरेक्टर की कंप्लेन आई, उसकी टीम मैनेजर, मतलब उसकी मैनेजर थी, शी यूज्ड टू रिपोर्ट टू दिस डायरेक्टर, और they were like out of the office, were involved with each other, they were like dating each other, or something happened out of the office, and it happened, this thing, whatever happened, it happened on Sunday, on a non-working day. But this girl wanted to settle score, so she complained about whatever happened between them out of the office, in office. I mean, just to settle the score. And I don't know how somebody would come to a conclusion about those kind of complaints. A very difficult situation and very crazy stuff that happens. And I've witnessed few cases myself.
Yeah, but till the time we have the hangover of this Abla Nari, no, Sandeep, this will continue,
I
yeah.
was about to say that. I was about
All
to
the
say
best
that.
to you, Parag.
No, but
Totally.
I'm glad that Parag, you were able to create that gender neutral, man. It's very difficult. I don't know with regard to the LGBTQ plus
Actually, but
community
I have a
because
question
they are
for Parag. Now you have created this general neutral approach. Say if you receive a cross complaint, both guy and girl, both of them come and they start complaining about each other, and they are making tall claims that this is how it happened. What would take precedence for you, because you don't have enough tools on your side to investigate? So how would you come to a conclusion in those scenarios? Would you be like siding women in those cases, given कि already लड़के are demon?
Yeah, matlab, I will come to it. I will cross the bridge when I come to it. I was appointed only 3 days
पराग
ago.
कह रहा है मुझे अभी तो बनाया है, मुझे बख्श दो.
Bucks though, yeah, Sandeep. Matlab, to the extent that when I told my wife, she says, "Can I even expect a hug from you going forward? Because you must be so careful."
और वैसे भी I'm
No, but I
sure you are part
understand.
of a
But
great
I
company. ऐसा कुछ होगा नहीं, ऐसी
but I
company
understand
situation
where
होगी,
you're
rare of the
coming from
rarest.
because that is how people behave and that is how people comprehend these things. And these things should not be taken on a lighter note. But that is how normally it happens. I'm telling you, Sandeep, the intricacies of the ICC, the Internal Complaints Committee, the way they read these complaints and the way they recite these complaints and they talk about it, it's deplorable. It's completely deplorable. That's the thinking mindset of people.
No,
Pathetic.
and the only thing that we as people, as a part of the committee, and especially the chairperson, I just need to bring in balance. My
Yes.
job is only to bring in balance because I can't go out and check cameras and CCTVs and all. That's the job of the investigation team. So when a proposal comes to me, it's like I weigh I'm supposed to at least weigh the facts and come up with a balanced approach. I think that's all what I can do at best. There's nothing special that I'm going to bring to the table.
Yes, like I think yesterday Akash mentioned one thing very interesting when we were having a conversation. So for those people who are not aware, Akash is one of our friends who is a practicing lawyer with the Chhattisgarh High Court. So he was saying that law is not about justice; it's about the administration of justice. So even with regard to the we can't give justice. We can only administer that the justice happens in the right manner. That is what exactly Parag is saying, that he's not someone who is going to see the CCTV cameras and all. Whatever the report that is coming to him, he's just trying to comprehend and understand and create a semblance and a balance there. That is normally what the ICC or the Posh committee does. But certain members, which I have seen from my own experience, the way they handle it, oh man, it's crazy.
Exactly. The way it gets handled is the problem. I mean, there is mostly, whatever that has been drafted as a provision for from a preventive aspect. All those things are very beautiful, and but again, implementation part is like a little messed up,
Exactly.
and people kind of also then there is corporate politics and all those things. I've seen a lot. Matlab Vikas is one of my dear friend. He was heading the Posh committee for one of the firm that he was working earlier. Or he just made me sit one day during a, you know, this girl came in and she was complaining about it. So he made me sit there and I was listening to him. Then he also called the other guy about who she was complaining about, and I saw clear bias there. And because he was my friend, I said, "Why you are dealing about this case in such a way? गलत है ना, like give equal opportunity to both and let them have their say." So you know, implementation is the actual problem. It's not the problem with the drafted version of what you have been instructed and how you have to go about, unfolding the truth. But yeah, ठीक है. You have to live with it, and people know what they are doing, and they try to do it.
Claims that the reason that they appointed me as the chairperson is because I'm a teetotaler. So,
Wow.
one of the previous
Innocent
guys,
बच्चा.
one of the previous guys
Wow.
was extremely fond of scotch. So you could actually take a decision in the favor by sending him a scotch at his house. So they said the reason they picked you up is because
Wow. I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult. I'm not aware.
even I couldn't. And
But Parag, the irony is that
I would
this
have
talks
picked the
about
other. I would have picked the other guy. मैंने बोला पराग को तो चाय में खरीद लोगे. उसको तो
नहीं,
स्कॉच
but
देनी पड़ेगी.
no, but the question is that this talks about the mindset of these people who are hiring people to conduct these kind of issues. What is their
no,
mindset?
they were just saying it in jest, yeah. मतलब they didn't
Okay, okay. Then they have a very cool mindset, I must say.
But sorry if
तू उसे
I
literally ले गया था
completely
भाई.
hijacked the discussion from a spiritual discussion of Maverick to something completely different. I'm sorry.
No, we are actually talking about concept of haptics with regard to both the concept that Maverick was saying, which was more on intangible level, and also on the one that you were mentioning, which is on a tangible level. We were discussing both the aspects. So thank you for bringing that perspective.
So Maverick, very interesting. We should connect offline. I just back channeled you, but there's really some great stuff that you're doing, and I'm completely enamored by the stuff that you're doing, yeah, Maverick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Maverick is all into energies and all.
Is Maverick
And,
your real name? I'm very intrigued.
This is a pseudonym for my book, EOA Diaries. I'm an author, so it's not my real name.
Okay.
So Maverick is a renowned author, Parag. He has published a lot of books.
Yeah, I'm sure that's his alibi. Yeah.
So he basically talks about a lot about energies and channeling, and also talks about religion, different perspectives of religion and all.
Interesting. So we have Glenn and Akash.
Yes, Glenn, I think Glenn, you wanted to ask some questions to Maverick. You were saying you wanted to ask something on
No,
the lines of your earlier remarks.
no,
So I
no.
think you.
I'm only joking with you.
So I think you
I
were
like to.
listening to
I
what.
love coming into the room of lonely men who long for touch. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Uh, no, Maverick answered all my questions. Thank you, Maverick.
Wonderful,
My
wonderful.
pleasure, my pleasure.
See,
Akash, you have anything to add? Akash has already added a very beautiful perspective from his own life, where he talked about the concept of touch with regard to his mother. That was something very sensitive, very personal, and very interesting. Akash, you have been listening to Parag with regard to the concept of POSH, the prevention of sexual harassment, normally in the corporates. Anything that you want to add there? Anything that you want to?
Yeah, very interesting to hear. I just got a mail from my office today about a 30-minute compulsory training that I have to undergo on Posh. So, yeah, I mean, I've not yet taken the training because I didn't want to at the moment. I'll do it when I'm free. So,
I'll
but
do
yeah,
it free for you.
sorry, Parag.
I said I'll do it
You
free for
feel
you.
good.
The amount of training I have undergone as a chairperson.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, they really have an online tool where I should, be able to take up some kind of an
Yeah, I think
assessment.
when we were also part of the this portion, all we used to do a lot of e-learning, m-learning, because people could not sit through a PowerPoint. I'm like, okay, we'll give you some kind of a gamified way of understanding Posh. We used to do that.
Exactly. And I'm also required to do an e-learning. They have a
Yeah.
tool. They'll see if I have completed that training, and
Oh.
once that is there, they'll issue that I've done that thing. But yeah, coming back to what I said earlier about my experience, right? How my mother being someone, she's a parent from the opposite gender, so uh, when she got emotionally switched off and was physically emotionally unavailable to me because of some impact in her own life. I as a child, it was still young for me to realize it, but as I grew up, kind of an awakening when there used to be girls who used to touch me in a friendly way. But I mean, I wish these girls were here today in this discussion because they could really understand. Sometimes they think, why do guys make a big deal out of a friendly touch? Why do they overthink it? Or because when that happened, right, there were other guys who were like making fun of me because this girl, she put her arm around me for a photo, or they were hugging me or whatever. But yeah, it's what do I say? It's something where uh, like I said earlier, I connected it. It was something you get if you're not accustomed to it as a depending on the conditioning you have from childhood, you will be desensitized to. Basically, you're not sensitized to touch, so you're desensitized in a sense. And when that happens, then you suddenly uh, it's new all of a sudden. So based on how you approach it, you either get more comfortable with it by practicing it, or you just so now I just look back and all these discussions help me realize what really happened there. Why was it more than a touch for me and just a touch for them? So yeah, that's about it.
No, but very interesting perspective that you have got, Akash, is that yes, we are, when we talk about touch, we were actually talking about touching women in a certain manner, but women never think about how they're touching us and what kind of a signal that can indicate. Even when Sandeep was mentioning about this thing that the women touched him in such a manner that he felt aroused. So, was there the consent drawn? Was there the consent even asked? Was there the consent even made aware? So these things, both women and men have to have a conversation together, and which is something because of which the conversations, the relationships, they are not holding that balance nowadays. And one of the reasons is that because people don't like to have conversations on these levels. They're not doing these conversations. And even our parents, they have never had these conversations with regard to the touch. Like someone came and someone was talking about marital rape. Marital rape itself has those elements of haptics. How you're touching someone without their consent, just by a presupposition that you've got married to them and you can do whatever the fuck that you want to. So yes, these are conversations we should have. That's one of the reason
I
I got this topic.
highlight we of this word conditioning because a lot of the things I feel now that we're discussing about this, but even otherwise, conditioning is really important. What those girls probably who were okay with touching someone from the opposite gender. I mean, big deal, not a big deal for them. Maybe their dads, a parent of opposite gender, for them were available to them, and it was normal in their home. It's like just my mom. I go hug her. She just says, "No, well, you're a grown guy. No, I can't hug you," and this and that. So I just let her be, right? Like I said, but for them, maybe again, what I'm trying to say here is what you bring out in a child, right? That sticks, and that's what we call conditioning. So if I imagine that as they grew up, their dads really made it okay for them to be available emotionally, physically, but it really depends. Like what is being told in the family about when there's friendships happening with the opposite gender. What is it's very subtle, but it gets cemented over time. All these things in the kids' way of looking at things. So I really want to stress on conditioning. It really, really changes the game. And I feel like beyond a point, right? We do say rewiring of brain even after we are adults, and all that is fine. You can always change who you are once you're an adult, but certain things, uh, what even this rewiring, what is it about? It's about changing something which probably you want to solve some trauma which your child in which the child in you is still not resolved, and you want to tell them it's fine now because now you're an adult and now you're strong enough to either help someone who's going through the same thing, or also or even stand up for uh, yourself if it happens again now. But that is something which is a secondary thing, but mainly it's really, really important which environment a child grows up in. That's gonna stick. I can't stress this enough. I think any topic you bring up from now on, my key word is going to be conditioning, because that really decides how they see the world. It's like the entire perception of the world is mainly from this whole aspect of how they, like, what is the inner child in them saying about this? Is this new situation, even though they are adults, traumatic to who they were as a kid, or is it something which maybe it won't be apparent as they're living day to day and dealing with it in the work environment or home or anywhere, but uh, it does happen subconsciously. They keep thinking, why did that happen? Why did that touch happen? Like it's because they oftentimes they don't even uh, get into the details and make this connection to what happened to that inner child when this thing happened. So what triggered that? They're not able to make that connection. They just brush it off, but it stays and it doesn't get resolved. So they have to put an you know acceptable appearance towards it outside, and by doing that they're not actually resolving what's very um, what's very, very important for that inner child to deal with, and that is to tell it that this thing has been resolved now, and maybe your conditioning wasn't great, but it's going to be a while. It's a process, day one, but over time you're going to get used to it, and till it's not in the subconscious, you consciously make a choice to react a different way, which is probably more appropriate uh, to respond towards these new uh, feedback, even if it's haptic.
Wonderfully articulated, and Akash, just by reading your voice and understanding the way your voice is coming out, I could feel everything that you were saying, and I understand that this is something that is missing in the parental aspect, and they're not able to form that touch, that connect, that understanding, that comprehension with the child. And if the child has gone through such kind of an experience, and if we can't even like talk about it, we can't even have conversations around this thing, and something that they only want to brush off and don't want to bring into that conversation, then definitely in the near future, when you are put into that situation and you go through the concept of haptics or proximity per se, then definitely you start feeling certain like rejections or some inside you. Also, you start contemplating certain thoughts inside you of what exactly is happening. What I'm thinking is right or what I'm thinking is not right. And when you are in that, in those confluence of emotions, and you start thinking, and your behavior also transitions in a certain manner. So I can completely understand where you're coming from and how you're resonating on this thing, because I've gone through those experiences myself, and being an introvert, transitioning towards an ambivert, this is something that we all face. PDAs for certain people, PDAs are very common. For certain people, it is like there's a boundary, there's a sphere of influence, and you don't want to cross that. That's why we have the concept of proxemics, and even like when Parag was mentioning about the POSH, the prevention of sexual harassment, the first thing that is extremely important element is the concept of proxemics, because touch will only happen when you come into that proximity to that person. So even before you can go into the concept of haptics, go into the concept of proxemics. That is something we will be discussing tomorrow. Yes. But thank you for sharing that beautiful perspective. That was amazing.
Sure, I just feel, it's very easy for people who don't, have the same background to misunderstand this thing. So it's like you said, it's very important to have conversations like this. It's just it was different for them, and maybe it was encouraged, maybe it was not. What you punish a child for, they will get. They will even after they become an adult think a lot before they do that again. So if a child was punished for being too emotional, and they're being told things like, "Come on, man, men don't get so emotional. Why are you acting like girls, getting all emotional, trying to hug, cry when someone goes away from home? You don't do that. It's you have to be tough. Being tough is right for a guy." These things stick with you, even though you know at some level that first of all, your natural self didn't behave that way, and this is being fed to you. Now you have to learn these things because otherwise you're punished, and that's where the conditioning comes in, and you stick to this long until you realize as an adult, what bull crap is this? Because I've been this tough person which is supposed to be the right way, and now people are running away from me because it comes off as an arrogant trait, or they call nowadays, as it's very popularly called, people recognize it as toxic masculinity. But that is what that is what we've been in some sense uh, raised to believe was right. Like, you have to be someone who's tough enough on the outside for the world to respect what's within you. So, but I don't a lot of discussions like these change that. But really, it does really depend on. So these reinforcements of punishments or rewards, if you're rewarded for being emotional, being okay with expressing your emotions, approaching your parent regardless of what gender they are. Like if it's a guy, you approach your mom and they're available to you emotionally and physically, and if you're a girl, the other way, dad. Then if you're rewarded for that, then maybe for you all this is just so obvious. Like you won't recognize a guy who grew up in a place who was punished for having this behavior. You won't be able to understand why this person is even when you use haptic method of communicating with that person, a simple touch, that person, and they react in a way which you feel is uh, a bit much, right? Kind of what is not normal. Then you think that why, but you don't know that it's very different where you come from. So life has been different. They were praised for different things. They were punished for different things. That is going to take some time to rewire or unwind and then rebuild, unlearn all these, throwing away the garbage and just starting from the bottom again on certain things. But as you grow, right, I feel that it's very important to have these conversations then and there, because as you I feel as you age, you just are less comfortable with changing changing certain aspects of your life. You don't want to unlearn. Basically, you're just so used to this. You're there's a part of you which says that you can't. It's just so hard to change now, and you get comfortable with who you are, and but that will just push away a lot more people than bring them. So I feel like regardless of where you are, how old you are, whatever, it's important to understand that it doesn't matter what you've learned, and if it's not what works in the real world, if it's something which is not um, you know, expected, whether in work or home or this thing, then you automatically uh, you try to relearn that pattern and you behave in a different way. But again, it depends. Like you don't want to be someone who's people pleasing, be indulge in toxic behaviors just so that you are fitting in the crowd. So you have to make those decisions on what really matters, right? In my case, I think I'll just be more open to this haptic thing when it comes to try to practice the good touch, learn about, try to avoid the bad touch, and with the opposite gender, and yeah, it's mainly you have to gauge where you're going, and I think with time, it's it'll sort itself out. But yeah, like it is important for the other person to also have an own open mind, and in that regard, if you don't find someone like that and they judge you for it, then please let that not affect you, because there's a lot of other people who know where you're coming from, especially because they've been in that same place. Glenn earlier said that they like to be with the same kind of people, but yeah, so it's really important to find people who can appreciate where you're coming from as well, or you just let them know, and if they're okay with it, then great. If they're not, then you carry on. So yeah, I think that's about it. I don't want to speak more.
On a lighter note, but Glenn called us a bunch of lonely men.
Part
who
the
are
I
this
was
missing
guy.
wondering
who are
where
missing
he was
that.
leading to, and thank God he stopped.
Even he changed his DP and he mentioned that I would like to touch that sense of touch. What the fuck is wrong
Seriously,
with
I was trying to figure out what he was trying to say, but no, Akash, I completely understand. The conditioning bit is so important, and I've always maintained, as a father to two daughters, Education alone is by no means a panacea, but it's undoubtedly an extremely solid start. And this education, like all good prevention, should start early and occur often. But the only thing is that it should go beyond what girls can do to prevent being victims. So, we always tell our girls that, you be careful, you be this, you be that, you take care, you don't talk to such guys, and so on and so forth. And so it should go beyond what girls can do to prevent being victims to the attitudes that boys should have about women and about masculinity, and the actions that men can take to promote mutual respect and egalitarianism. Because, all along we've been saying that, it's the girls who have to take care, but I think preventing any kind of sexual harassment, because we spoke about POSH, starts with what we teach our boys and men, whether we are able to convert our boys into men. I think that's when the mind shift or the mindset change will actually.
Parag, I agree with you. It's the whole focus on how women should not be a victim and emphasis on. But that should not just be the case. It should also be that men should be taught how to, you know, uh, behave appropriately and accordingly with when they're dealing with the other gender. But the thing is, I feel that women have already made progress in that area, like mature. They have already understood this nuance that they've been using also feminism now as a moment to progress. I think it's the men that haven't matured up to this, and that's why they need to learn more about this because a lot of times, we observe that, and today, right, it's no longer, the case where women will even listen if you tell them that this is what you need to do if you don't want to be a victim. It's That's the level of independence, many of them are achieved, and it's a good thing. But I think it's the men who need to adapt to that now, because a lot of egos, personal egos, won't let them do that. So
Patriarchal system occurs. It's the patriarchal system which doesn't allow us to do that. Men being more supreme, that if you start from that high-handedness, it's very little. All right.
Yeah.
I have an early day and I just realized it's 1:50. It's nearing 2 o'clock. So I'm going to call it a night. Night to each one of you. What a
Yes,
pleasure to
Siddharth.
be in the
Take
power
care.
of haptics. Thank you so
good night.
Yeah. Good night. All right. Suprakash, Ashish, you guys have also joined in. Thank you for joining in.
So what's exactly this haptics? You're coming up with the new terms every day. I just had to Google for it.
So, haptics is basically a concept of non-verbal communication, where you try to make the other person aware about your awareness, your intent, your action, your intention, your vibe, your emotion, your feelings, your needs, your wants, your desires, your content, um, whatever that you want to transfer to the other person through the power of touch. So haptics is more with regard to the touch, how you're touching someone, whether it be on a tangible platform or in a tangible frame, or whether it be in an intangible frame. Where, for example, like right now, I can't touch you, I can't shake hands with you, but the power of the voice, the way I'm having conversation with you, my thoughts, my ideas, my emotions, my impressions, my expressions, they are forming a certain vibration which is resonating with you. It's touching you on certain levels. That's one of the reasons you want to have a conversation with me. That itself is the power of haptics. So any experiences that you feel like sharing, you are free to do that.
So okay, so the audio touch is also a touch, right?
Yeah,
It's power of
yeah,
haptics.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
In an intangible level.
Of can you explain the intangible thing
Tangible
to
means
me?
touch
I'm sorry.
itself. Like your wife
Okay.
can touch you. You can feel. So we have three types of touch. One is a kinesthetic, which is more with regard to the bodily movements, because kine itself means movement. We have the cutaneous, which is on your skin, and then we have the haptic, which is you touching an external environment where you are touching something. So it can be on a tangible level where you're touching something, or intangible where something is, you can hear some sound, you can feel certain emotions, and it just goes inside you without even touching you. It touches you. Does that make sense, Ashish?
Yeah, so when like watch a movie, right? So that is touches you, right?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
considered
That's
in this
intangible.
fashion?
That's intangible because there, the emotions of the character, you start resonating with them on the concept of method acting. So that also becomes a kind of the concept of transference or emotional contagion. That itself is a touch.
So speaking of
Like
that,
for example,
yeah.
they say that there is something called emotional fidelity even before the actual actionable fidelity that happens. So the woman is coming close to you and she's making love to you. Why? Because you were able to touch her emotions, her mind, her values, her feelings, her insights. Before you can touch her body, you're touching her mind. So that itself is the power of haptics.
I have a question. Then how do you differentiate haptics with communication?
I'm sorry?
How will you differentiate haptics with communication? Because as per my understanding, haptic is something where physical touch come into picture.
Yeah. Haptics normally is with regard to the tangible aspect, but we are also discussing on another platform which is intangible, where we are touching person not just with regard to the touch of the skin, but also with regard to the touch of the emotions and the thoughts that we want to project towards them.
Doesn't that come under non-verbal communication?
Non-verbal communication is even haptics itself is non-verbal. Verbal means that the voice is involved. Even in haptics, we
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
any voice.
yeah. Right.
I can touch you without saying anything.
Okay. So where will you place chronics and all? Where chromatics, where the smell, the color, all those play roles. That also come under haptics.
See, with regard to smell, it is olfactory. With
Mm-hmm.
regard to the guts, it is gustatory.
Mm-hmm.
And with regard to the pictorial representation, that's visual. And what Ashish was saying is more with regard to the levels when he's saying radio is auditory. So if you
Mm-hmm.
take into consideration the concept of VICOG, it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. But haptics is more with regard to the touch in a tangible manner. However, we are also adding another element. I am adding that element, which is on an intangible level, where you're touching someone through your voice, through your thoughts, through your impressions, through your expressions.
Can you recommend me some book or something where I can get more insight on this topic? Because
Wikipedia.
I learned a lot
Type
many new things
type
today.
haptics Wikipedia and Wikipedia space Wikipedia on Google. You'll find a
Okay.
lot of information there.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, Ashish, you were saying something? All right, Suprakash, welcome back. आप तो तबला बजाते हो, आपको तो वैसे ही पता है टच के बारे में. When you touch the areas of the tabla in a certain manner, a certain sound comes out. That is the power of haptics. Anything that you feel like sharing there? So Sakshi, I think you're the only one, and I think Maverick is the only one who is here right now. Anything from your experiential learning that you feel like sharing?
Nothing as such. See, I'm trying to be a soft skill trainer. So definitely body language and vocal and non-vocal communication is a part of my study. So yeah, I've been trying to read a lot on these topics.
Yeah, so I
So
am
is it like,
yeah.
sorry. So is it like about the aura that you're trying to present by doing the haptic touch? Like so that other
Osho,
person can
even Osho
communicate
used
and
to do that. Even Sadhguru has been doing that. It also comes in the element of placebo effect, where you are just touching certain position of a person because they are resonating in a certain state. In NLP, we call it the anchoring position, where you are touching a certain part of the body of the person while you have already created a state. There is a thing that is used in psychology where we say that create a blank state in the person, and whatever thought that they are thinking, they will fill that blank with that state when you touch them. So touching actually creates two things. First is the awareness, second is the sensation or the feeling deep within them. And the way you touch them, it creates an intention and a desire. And that desire transitions into a behavior or an action. So the thoughts, the touch, the projection into an action. It is also called tactile projection, where you're trying to prime or anchor the other person while they're listening to you or while they are in your proximity. That also happens a lot. That's why we have this concept of the surface area dimension, that you're not just touching the person, you're also taking into consideration the time constraint, that how long you are touching that person. For the women who is standing next to me, if someone comes and taps on the shoulder, maybe it's fine for her. But if someone comes and places his or her hand on her shoulder for a very long duration, where the surface area is a lot more than just a gentle tap, then she might find it very irksome. So this concept of tangible touch or haptics is something that people normally don't talk much about. But this is something which me being a voice coach or the body language coach, I go into the nuances of verbal and non-verbal, because this is one of the parts of non-verbal where you want to take into consideration the nuances of touching. And tomorrow we will be talking more about the power of proxemics, which is more about the proximity. Because till the time you're not closing the proximity with the person, you can't touch that person. And today I'm also not taking into consideration just with regard to the facets of tangible aspect of touching, but also intangible, where you are touching someone through the emotions that you can create deep inside them. That is something that I have added to, because I have a very philosophical bent of mind. So I keep on thinking about different directions that I can put into one particular perspective.
So at what
sorry.
time do you start the room?
Yeah, I
So
just
normally I start around at 9.
Okay.
okay. So, Vicky bhai, one thing you should do is to have some sort of blog. Actually, write up, put a link actually at the top, so people like
I
me
don't like
who
to
can
write at
understand.
all. That's one of the reasons I have my own podcast. Its name is
No,
Power of
no.
Voice.
Okay, so you can convert this audio to the audio to the transcript or something. Use some tool so that
I
people
think
like me,
I think
can
today
read
only,
actually.
yeah, I think today only these people have added this thing called replays on or whatever, where you can download the recording. So I have started, I haven't ended. Maybe when I end the room, they might give me some kind of a direction how I can download it, and then I can edit and put it as part of my next podcast. But yeah, there is another application called Club Deck. If you somehow start your room on Club Deck, you can even record the conversations, and you can also download the transcripts with the subtitles as a subtitle, and then you can put that on your blog. That also you can do. Many people, what they do is they normally have a conversation. They just open conversation, and people will be adding a lot of value, and they will capture that value and put that on their Twitter timeline, and they will showcase as if it's coming from them. So that also happens. It's called the export power. It depends from person to person what exactly is your intention that you want to create. My intention is to create an awareness and to get a larger perspective on that and to have a conversation. If somehow I get the opportunity to record, I would definitely like to take that permission for everyone who is there. I don't want to record someone just for the sake of it. I need that consent.
No, my exact point is about the topic actually. That when you explain this kind of topic, where I have to Google look up the term actually. Maybe you can put some link that
So,
with your own thoughts,
so
so that
we,
people, people who are just listening in the audience can at least go to that link and and listen the basic vibes of what you're trying to say.
yeah, so Ashish, that's why I've kept the topic name very short, very clear and concise. That is the power of haptics. So power you are already aware of, you are aware that it's a structure word for grammar. The thing that you're not aware is haptics. Just type it on Google and you'll get a lot of information there.
No, but it's about your perspective on that take.
Yeah, that's why we're having a conversation. Na? That's why we're having a conversation. And we started at 9 and we have been resetting almost 15 times. I've reset the room, making people aware. What is the thing that we're discussing? Because many people came and there were so many facets that we, like Parag was there. He recently became the chairman of the POSH committee. So he was talking about the POSH Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment, where you use the concept of not just haptics but also proximity. Then there was someone who was talking about how Akash was there. He was talking about the concept of haptics with regard to the girlfriends or friends who are touching him without his consent as a PDA, which is called public display of affection. So touch itself is very touchy topic, and people bring out various experiences and they reflect on that, and that is something that we love to do, to reflect on various experiences. Because I normally don't like to have conversation only on the basis of something that I can find very easily on Google. The only thing that I can't find on Google or YouTube or whatever that is there is what life you guys have lived, and whatever life that you have lived and whatever experiences that you have had. If you share it resonates with the topic, you want to connect with that, then there will be an experiential learning that will be happening, which will, when we reflect on, we get those larger learnings in life, which we can implement in life to create a larger impact, a deeper impact. That is something what I believe in, because being a coach, being a mentor, being a trainer, being a facilitator, I always love to listen to the stories and the experiences of people, because being an experiential learner, I always believe that the real learning is in the experiences. And when you reflect on the experiences, those learnings become a part of your idiosyncrasies and your behavior. That's what I truly believe in.
So in the machine learning, different data is our points. Your people's experience is your data points.
Yes, bang on. Because that is something that is not available on internet. Rest everything is there. But what my perspective is, how someone can add a new perspective to it, how we can add some philosophy to it, how we can go deeper into it, probe it, have Socratic dialogues. All those things are something that fascinates me, Ashish.
Yes, I will join later. I am met by the
So I'll
police.
be ending the room now, because we have been going for a freaking long period of time, and I'll be doing some trainings tomorrow. I'll be waking up. But thank you so much for guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for sharing your perspectives. And tomorrow at 9, we'll be sharing the power of proxemics. That is something which is extremely important and relevant to be discussed. So if you are loving the vibe, please join the tribe.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Maverick, Sakshi, Supakash, Ashish. Take care, guys.
You too.
See you tomorrow.